An elimination game for Georgia, and the Dogs keep their playoff hopes alive. This touchdown ceiling at the freshman Nate Frazier punches it in to make it a 2-score game. Consider out with their leading rusher out of this game, Trevor Etienne, with a rib injury, and the freshman Nate Frazier making the most of his opportunities, as is Carson Beck, who has 3 total touchdowns, his first rushing touchdown of the season. Both of his passing touchdowns going to Oscar Delp, who came into this game with 0 zippy touchdowns on the season. He catches 2, and Georgia wins it 31-17, which now gives them 8 straight wins over Tennessee by 14 or more points. It also extends the nation's longest home winning streak to 29, and more importantly, Georgia is back in the playoff mix. Now, they were just on the outside looking in. Now they're going to find themselves in the playoff picture. And I'm not in the committee, but they are going to be in the bracket come Tuesday. CBS Sports HQ is built by the Home Depot. How doers get more done. Georgia getting it done at home, B-Mac. Who was this quarterback for Georgia? I don't know that I can recall seeing this young man, because consider coming in, he had multiple games, 4 games with multiple turnovers. He played mistake-free football. I don't know who this guy was.
I think this is the guy that we thought we would see to start the season. When you look at what he did in 2023 with the experience, a lot of key contributors returning for 2024. So this is who we visualize Carson Beck would look like. Granted, he's been up and down, a very, very emotional roller coaster, to say the least. But in tonight's matchup, he said it there. He told his team this week, getting ready for this ball game, the playoffs starts now, meaning they cannot lose. Lose and you go home. He played with that mentality. He led from start to finish, even though they got off to a slow start in the first quarter. When he got things rolling, man, the entire offense was rolling, and they needed his best effort today, and they got it.
Well, you heard Kirby Smart say he ran the offense beautifully. That's about as good as you can run it there when you're without your leading running back and Trevor Etienne, and you've got Nate Frazier back there. They trust him to get it done. He's had some nice games. He's filled in nicely for this run game for Georgia. But when you look at the fact that Carson Beck finally stands up, finally steps up in the moment, this says a lot about this young man, because, again, he had 12 interceptions in his last 6 games.
And see, that's the thing. The last 6 ball games, I don't think that's an overall assessment of who Carson Beck is as a quarterback. He just was in a very, very bad place, and he wasn't getting a lot of help because, of course, they've been dealing with a lot of drops from pass catchers. We saw drops surface once again in tonight's matchup, but I think Carson Beck was able just to play free. He understood the moment, and being at home also helps as well. Having that home crowd backing you is a big time plus when you're trying to find a way to get back on the right foot, and he was able to do so. And that's why, you know, there are so many people, when you look at the committee and people who really watch football, you don't want to just turn your back on Georgia, because if Carson Beck can play to this level or just give you flashes of this type of football, you have to like their chances, because they can run the football, especially when they get fully healthy in the backfield. And you know that defense, Hakeem, on all 3 levels, that's a very, very sound, disciplined group. We saw that tonight. You have to like their chances.
Yeah, Kirby Smart said he has no idea what the committee looks for. He knows what they're looking for. They're looking for style. They're looking for ranked wins. They're looking for moments where you step up in the face of adversity. You know one of your players is out. Like, that goes, we're all human beings, and the people on the committee, it's not robots, it's not a computer anymore. They know the stakes that these teams are playing with. They know the log jam in the SEC. They know that this game is huge for Georgia, that they played a tough schedule. They come back home and they take care of business. Another thing I want to point out to you, B-Mac, their last 2 scoring drives, 12 plays, 87 yards in 7 minutes and 22 seconds. The last one, 12 plays, 92 yards, 6 minutes and 21 seconds. What does that tell you?
They know how to finish. Tonight, they found a way to finish. And that was something that has been missing for Georgia. And going back to the Florida game, remember, they struggled against Florida, but it was 2 late fourth-quarter touchdowns that kind of jump-started everything. And then that surfaced once again against Ole Miss on the road. But in tonight, they found a way to finish and sustain the drives they needed to do so to keep Tennessee on the sideline offensively. Man, this is a very, very talented team. You don't question the talent. When you look at the losses that we saw from Georgia, horrible start on the road against Alabama. In the fourth quarter, they fought back, ran out of time. You look at what happened last week. Got off to a slow start, never found a way to get their rhythm, couldn't get any timely stops defensively, took one on the chin against Ole Miss. Coming in tonight's matchup, I felt like Kirby Smart would have his team dialed in from start to finish. Like I said, the first quarter was a slow start, but when they finally got things going, they were able to play great defense against Tennessee's offensive game plan, especially in the passing game. And then Carson Beck, he was the difference maker in tonight's matchup. Like I said, over 300 yards, 346 yards, super efficient, 3 total touchdowns. This was probably his best game in a Bulldogs uniform, and they needed
outside of the Alabama game, because he was incredible in that game in the second half. Even though they lost. Yeah. But he was incredible in terms of stat stuffing. But this one, more important because they get the win in the end. Tennessee is now 8-2, 5-2 in the conference, which brings us to this. 6 SEC teams could finish the regular season 10-2. Alabama, Georgia, Ole Miss, Tennessee, Texas, and Texas A&M. There's only one more game remaining involving those 6 teams. That's Texas at Texas A&M in Week 14. So Tennessee, B-Mac, is not out of it in terms of the SEC conference. They could play for the title. There is a way. It's a very convoluted tiebreaker, but Tennessee is still not out of this yet.
And I'll give you one more, right? We could see 6 SEC teams get into the playoffs.
No. Get out of here.
We could see that.
No.
We could see that.
Tell me how.
Okay.
I'm going to write this down right now.
Brace yourself, all right?
I'm ready.
This is what me and my guy do.
I got my marker ready.
6 teams.
Yep.
Alabama. If Alabama wins out, they're in, right? I know they have the Iron Bowl against Auburn, but if they win out, they're in. So that's one.
That game can get squirrely. We saw last season.
I know it can get squirrely. I know it can get a little weird.
All right.
But, okay, that's one, right?
Yep.
If UGA went out, they have UMass and Georgia Tech. They're in. Right? If Tennessee wins out, they got UTEP and Vandy. Especially beating Vandy.
Oh, yeah.
That would help their chances. They will be in. Right? If Texas happens to lose to A&M, they still get in. Because Texas has what? 1 loss, right? And who that loss happened to? Georgia. Right? So if Texas lose, they're still in.
Still in
my opinion. How many is that?
That's 4.
If A&M beat Texas, because that's the final game of the season, they're in. That's 5.
That's 5.
Ole Miss, I don't recall their final 2 games right on the schedule for Ole Miss. I'll give it to you right now.
Florida, Mississippi State.
If Ole Miss wins out, they're in. Agree or disagree? If Ole Miss wins out, beat Florida and who? Mississippi State in the Egg Bowl. They're in, right? How many is that, Hakeem?
That's 6.
There it is.
So that
means
you're taking 2 berths away from the Big Ten.
No question. I'm not
saying that means you're leaving out like Indiana if they lose to Ohio State next week.
All I'm saying is this. If everything works out like I just explained in this hypothetical, you cannot leave Georgia out, right? And if
tough to do so.
If Georgia makes it, you can't leave Tennessee out because Tennessee beat the team that Georgia lost to. Alabama, right? Ole Miss, you can't leave them out. Ole Miss just beat Georgia. And Alabama,
you're making a pretty good case.
You can't leave Alabama out if they went out because Alabama beat who? Georgia. How can you make the case to leave any one of those teams out? Because there's so much chaos in the SEC. And I'll say this, if A&M loses to Texas in the final game of the season, I think they would be out.
Then it's 5.
It would be 5.
Yeah.
But even if 5 teams get into the college football playoffs, we didn't think that could happen from one conference. But I think this is the year that it could happen based on everything when you look at the 6 teams that we just highlighted and how their schedule worked out. When you have one team beat another team and lose to another team, you're going to make a case for one team. You got to make the case for the same team that beat that team. That's what Alabama is standing on. All Alabama has to do is win out. Because what happened today almost just stamps Georgia in. They know they just got to win out. So they have 2 losses. So if Georgia's a 2-loss team and they get into the playoffs, and I think it's safe to say we had to really ponder this, we all would agree if Georgia went out, they're in for sure. You beat Texas, you just beat Tennessee, who was number 7.
No doubt.
You're in.
No doubt.
But you have 2 losses, Georgia. To Ole Miss and to Bama. So now
no doubt
that actually helps Bama. So that's how. Worst case scenario, if I say 5, because if Texas loses to, if A&M loses to Texas, I think the A&M may be out because they would have, what, 3 losses?
Yeah.
On the season, 2 in the SEC.
All right, so
if
you got 6 teams in from the SEC.
Potentially.
So then let's talk.
That means they have to beat Texas.
Right.
Final game of the season.
You laid it out. Social. So like, call out our social team right now, and BMAC just put 6 teams into the college football playoff. Clip that off. Put it on social. Let's go.
Yeah. And if A&M don't beat the Longhorns, if they don't beat the Longhorns, you got 5.
Yep.
You get 5. And every other conference, you got to work it out. They got to work it out.
All right, time now for the Doers Playbook, built by the Home Depot, how doers get more done. Breaking down how a team's game plan leads to their success. Which phase of the game was critical to Georgia's success in this one?
I'll say when you look at the slow first half, the first quarter specifically, when you look at what happened in the second and third quarter, I'll go with Carson Beck. When you look at his timely touchdowns, when you look at the lack of tight end production, I mean, since Brock Browse left, it was like they couldn't get anything going with the tight ends. But when you look at what he did tonight with their tight ends, that jump-started quality sound momentum for them to take this lead and never look back. I think that was a defining moment, just working the seams, finding ways to hit your star tight end in the end zone for 2 touchdowns. 2 touchdowns. You didn't have 1 touchdown from any tight end coming into tonight's matchup for Georgia. I think that was the defining moment, and that's what doers do.
Boom. That's what doers do. Carson Beck getting it done. Georgia keeping its playoff hopes alive with a 14-point win over Tennessee. They beat them for an 8th straight time by 14 or more points. Take a look at this. The best record when facing a 10 or more point deficit in the last 5 seasons. Georgia improves to 6-6, gutting it out, down 10-0, and Georgia rallies, hanging 31 on the scoreboard. Carson Beck playing mistake-free football.